Hello. It's
Hello.
nice to see everyone here.
Hello.
Um, we are recording this tonight, and I am here with Lukas Arnold, who is a fantastic narrator. And I'm so pleased with the work that he did for Boy Bites Bug. First, I should introduce myself. I am Rebecca Petruck, the author of Boy Bites Bug, which is a middle grade novel for readers about aged 8 to 12. And it uses humor and bug eating and wrestling to really talk about racism in an age appropriate way, and try to help kids start to have a conversation about something which is, a very serious and important issue. So we are here tonight with Lukas Arnold, who is among being a fantastic voice actor, is a comedian and an actor based in Brooklyn. He is known especially as a content creator online at Lukas T. Arnold, with over 3 million followers. He's performed with sketch groups. He hosts 2 podcasts. He's a stand-up comedian and has been all across the US and as part of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So I'm just really pleased to have him here tonight. Hello, Lukas.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. So to get us started, I hoped that first we could have Lukas do a short reading, and then we will have I will ask some questions. We will do a bug tasting of insects he hasn't tried before, and then be open for a few questions and answers afterwards. So
Yeah,
take it away,
indeed.
Lukas.
Eloy crossed his arms and finally looked at him. What do you want? He didn't say it meanly exactly, but Will got the point that he wasn't getting any help with saying what he needed to say. He took a deep breath. I'm sorry for using you for grasshoppers. Eloy peered at Will, as if he'd grown a giant zit on his forehead. It was wrong, because treating something normal for you like it's weird is as bad as calling you names. Eloy rolled his eyes, as if Will were being melodramatic. Will wanted to grab Eloy's shoulders and make him pay better attention. Will was serious. In the future, I'll be more respectful of you and your culture. Jeez, Will, it wasn't that bad. Will blinked. Yes, it was. Eloy shook his head. You were being a bonehead, and yeah, I was mad, and it would be nice if I didn't have to call you on it every time you're a bonehead. You could figure it out yourself. That I'm a bonehead? Yeah. Eloy kind of grinned, but then didn't. He said quietly, do you know how hard it is to be Mexican in Minnesota? You're all so white. They were all so white. Will had never really thought about it until becoming friends with Eloy. But the guys on the team, and a bunch of kids at school, both Hispanic and white, were friends with Eloy. Real friends. Like Will. People like you, Eloy. Most of them didn't try to get to know me until you decided I was okay. For that, I was the new kid. And a Mexican, too. You are the new kid. And Mexican. Will looked down the hall into the living room. That had surprised him the first time he visited. By how ordinary it was. Ordinary for a guy from Minnesota who sometimes visited Mexico. I don't think people care exactly. Some do. You know they do. Eloy said meaningfully, and Will knew he meant Daryl. Yeah, Will sighed. But I think for other people, they're just not familiar with it, You speak Spanish at school and no one says anything. I didn't used to speak Spanish at school. even with my friends in Rochester.
Um,
But then you got all excited when I cursed at practice. Will remembered that practice. Eloy had found the loophole about cursing. So you started speaking Spanish more because of me? Eloy rolled his eyes. Will puffed up. See? I'm a good guy. I've been telling you. You're a menso who sometimes accidentally steps into doing something kind of okay. You say that like it doesn't count. Eloy laughed. See? Menso. I've been telling you. Will felt like he dropped a ton of weight again. Eloy probably should have been madder at Will, but it wasn't his style, and Will was grateful. He thought about putting him in a headlock, but then remembered something Eloy had said once. He stepped forward and hugged Eloy. What are you doing? Eloy asked, not moving. I remember you saying some men just hug each other? Will added a couple claps on the back before stepping away. So I hugged you. Ah. Will squinted at Eloy's too straight face. You know how to tell this is Minnesota? Eloy asked. He put Will in a headlock. Will, smelling armpit, fake gagged like he was face first in toxic waste. Deodorant is your friend. Let me take that again because that was the wrong person. Deodorant is your friend? No, it's your friend, Eloy said. So, you'll help me? Will said. Que Dios me ayude. That sounded like, yes, absolutely. I can't wait because I'm sure your idea is genius and you are a genius and the best wrestler and also very handsome. When you're finished translating, you can actually ask me whatever it is you need help with. And eat spaghetti. Being put in a headlock was the easiest apology Will had ever given. And his escape was a technical masterpiece. Herrera cooking was on the line after all.
Thank you so much. And I'm actually really glad that that happened with the voice in between, because that leads into my first question. I think that you did an amazing job with this book, and with the audiobook. I just loved every second of it. And one of the things I'm fascinated by is that even though you're not putting on voices, I could tell when you were changing characters or changing between characters when you're talking. And so I just wondered about like how you prepare as a voice actor, how you navigate, a large cast, and just kind of keep that going, I guess.
Well, the first thing I thought about going in was that this book had a lot of Mexican or Latin American characters, and I thought I didn't feel it quite immediately. I thought I'm not going to try to do an accent. That's just not the angle I wanted to go in. And so what I wanted to do instead was just slight changes in tone, just slight changes in pitch, or even just attitude. Like sometimes people are just like, just a little bit more, toned back, or a little bit like Simon is someone who I wanted to be very, very bombastic and very, very sort of flamboyant with his energy. And naturally Will is going to be like closer to my own because he's a main character. But Eloy, I think I wanted him to sound confused by a lot of stuff where he's just like looking around like, what is wrong with you people? Why is everyone behaving so? That was like his core that I chose, that I thought made the most sense and I thought was fun to play with, and was also just like something that I could relate to, because like my own identity I don't think could inform much of Eloy's life, and so I wanted to use what I could that I thought was actually useful. That was, and it's also like a big part of choosing how to perform each role is really just being kind to yourself and how much energy you have to spend on the entire book. And so it's kind of an economic thing, more tied into your artistic process. Um, so yeah. Did I get to, is there anything else you'd like me to go into?
Well, that's great. And actually, I did wonder too, how much time goes into a book, because the finished book
Yes.
is about 5.5 hours, but I'm sure it was many more hours behind the scenes.
Yes. Um, so this is actually something that I was taught when I first started training in voiceover and specifically audiobook narration, is that like I've not no, I've actually started doing a few audiobooks where someone else edits for me, and that's the best. But the vast majority of books that I've narrated, I have produced my own, and I've done all of the editing. I just produced the whole audiobook. Just one-stop shop. And so the time it takes, so like this is a 5 hour-ish audiobook. It takes at least 3 times the given time of a finished audiobook to that includes the entire process. So there's like the full recording, the initial recording that includes all of the flubs. And what I do is I just like when I notice a flub, I make a big click with my tongue, but I will do just a little, and that'll create a big spike in the waveform so that when I go do my edit, I can just immediately go to all of those and just staple over, and do that. And so I'm pretty quick with that. I'm a very efficient editor, but still, it takes about 3 times as long. Whatever the audiobook is, imagine 3 times as long the work that the narrator producers put in. That's what it is.
Wow, wow, that's a lot. Um, that's fascinating. I know that in writing, for a lot of us, when we're editing or revising, if we don't know what we want to put in there yet, a lot of us will use a special character or brackets or something like that. So then we can do a find search and just go to those spots in the manuscript without
Ugh.
having to, yeah, scan all over. So it's interesting having that kind
Yeah,
of
I can't do that. That would help so much.
So, when you were working on Bug, did you have a kind of favorite character to read?
Daryl.
Daryl, interesting. Why is that?
Um, he's the most alone. He's really has the smallest community in the whole book.
Mhm.
And like Will, he makes a lot of mistakes. But he still grows a lot, and like he's never 100% on his own. Whereas pretty close to the beginning, Daryl is moved way out there. And he is still a child. He is still forming his understanding of how the world works. He's still forming his own identity. And it's not to diminish at all what Eloy goes through and what people of color just go through throughout the country, across the world. But like, especially narrating these characters, like, that is by far the saddest character because he is a child. I don't hold him responsible for the hurtful things that he was spewing out. You know that that's like has to do with his home life and maybe the media that he like receives, and that's a very dark thing to think about a child being in the midst of. And it's so interesting to see him not effectively, but he does grapple with it. And so he was definitely not my favorite person, but my favorite character.
Thank you so much. I worked really hard on Daryl, and I had, people who really wanted him to be cut out, to be, cut off, and I very much wanted to leave the door open for him, for exactly all those recent reasons that you said, is that he is a child, and he is definitely making missteps. But I definitely didn't want to end the story with, now he's cut off because he did something bad, right?
Can I share one thing that actually is really interesting because this reminded me of something, which is the story of a dude who's a musician and he's black and he I literally just Googled him just to get like the details, but he has convinced over 200 members of the KKK to leave, and they give him their robes. His name is Daryl Davis.
Thank you for sharing that. That
Yeah.
just gave me chills.
Oh, and if anyone listening, Google Daryl Davis. He's one of the most interesting guys in the world. And he doesn't ask these people to leave. What he does is he just provides an example of a real person, a real black person that they can just be friends with. And naturally over time, all of their preconceived notions and race, it fades away because it can't survive up against the reality of a friend being next to you and telling you what their reality is and showing you what is real,
Right.
because all prejudice falls when you learn and when you're curious and when you're confronted with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, and that's part of what inspired Bug in the first place is that I have, several white cousins in Minnesota who are just goobers, and they're very much love bugs, but they were posting things that were racist just because they're kind of popular, cool, but I don't think they realized they were racist. And so I was really trying to talk to, that young white kid who's not exposed to people from traditionally marginalized communities, and just say this is what it looks like, and start hopefully encouraging them to think about, for so many kids they would say they're not racist because they're not spewing the n-word every day,
Right.
right? And it's like that's like of course it's a big part of it, but that's the least of it. Like there's so much more
Yes.
to what racism is on a day-to-day basis for people of color in the US. So thank you so much. I have always had a special place in my heart for Daryl, but many readers did not. So
Yeah, because
yeah.
it's tough to be compassionate to someone who's like that.
Yeah,
And that's, I'm sure, why a lot of people wanted him cut out because of the discomfort that it inspires.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I did want to, just because you mentioned this, as far as when you make a flub and make a
Hmm.
reminder for yourself in the audio, have you made any kind of like memorable, funny errors while reading, or do you keep a blooper reel or anything like that?
I definitely don't keep a blooper reel. That would take a lot more work than I have the energy to do. Um, I don't really remember any significant ones. It's also that, so I was telling you a little bit before we started this live stream that I grew up very, very with a lot of difficulties in reading. And that's a big reason why I love audiobooks so much, is because it allows the story to sort of bypass my issue that I have with reading, and it goes into right into basically where I can enjoy it. And when I'm narrating a book, it doesn't feel like when I'm trying to just read a book. It feels much more like when I'm trying to act a part. And so it goes in a very different part of my brain. And so I make flubs, absolutely, but I'm in a kind of different headspace where I'm just sort of like, I kind of have my blinders up and I'm like, okay, let's just get this done. And so, very boring answer. I don't have any memorable flubs. That it's also it's a lot of time spent on your own. It's a lot of time spent on your own, just in a booth, just like in this little world. And so I very rarely have stuff that I'm like, oh, the world needs to see this. Uh,
Great, thank you. Well, and I think thanks for sharing too about, basically processing. I had shared that for me, it's more difficult to process audio only, and I'm a big reader. And,
mm,
and I think that for so many people, especially younger readers, they have an expectation that they're supposed to be able to just sit down and open a book and read. And if they don't meet that expectation, then they think they're not a good reader. And that's not
Yeah.
helpful at all.
Oh no, I judged
Uh,
myself a ton as a kid. And I thought I was broken, honestly, in some ways. I really no, I struggled a lot with reading as a kid. Honest,
yeah, I can imagine that that was tough when you were a kid. And now look at you.
yeah, I mean I still struggle to like with reading comprehension, but it is a weird trajectory doing this now. It is
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. Well, I wanted to move on to the treat portion of
Oh
the
my God.
night, if
Look at this.
if we can. So, for viewers, I sent Lukas several insects. First, you should, if you will, share the experience that you already have with insects. And
Yes, absolutely. Um, I think the first experience not first experience of me really thinking about eating bugs. So my mom is from Sudan, and she told me growing up that she would eat locusts and that they tasted like peanut butter. And I think I saw it in a movie with Viggo Mortensen where he was like riding a horse across the desert and he eats a lot of locusts. And my mom was like, "Oh no, they're really good." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I thought about it in the future. I was like, I would probably like bugs. I had a feeling I probably would. And then I went with a friend to a museum in Queens, New York, and Museum of the Moving Image, great museum. And very close there is a Mexican restaurant, and they had cricket tacos. And I ordered them, and they were awesome. It was exactly what I was expecting. They were crispy, they were flair. It was perfect. And so that was the first time and then since then I've had like little bugs and like snacks, like dry roasted and stuff. Um, and they're great. I'm into it. I love them.
yeah, fresh insects, to be fair, fresh insects are always going to be better. I hope that you will enjoy some of these.
I've
But
not had fresh.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like the cricket tacos that you had, like
Hmm.
fresh prepared versus, kind of air dried and stuff for
Yeah.
these. But yeah, if you want to take your pick.
Okay, here we go. Okay, now I'm ready to eat. I'm gonna try the ants actually first
Okay, I will say
because
those are my favorite.
I'm a big fan of Chef's Table.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you have seen it, but there is a chef, a Brazilian chef called Alex Atala, and he do you know him?
Is that like from season? I know I've seen the first
It's
two
a while
seasons.
ago.
Okay, I was gonna say it was a while ago, but that does ring a bell. Yeah.
Yes, the reason why I bring him up is because there's a indigenous tribe in Brazil that eat ants, and he said that they tasted of lemongrass and ginger.
Mhm.
And I remember that. I was like, whoa, I want to try those. And so I have never had ants before, and so I'm very excited to try them.
Yes. Well, it's now I won't remember the name, but there's something in all ants that has a very citrusy flavor. So they'll all kind of have that tang to them.
Okay, okay. Whoa, oh my God, that is fragrant. That is good. Okay. Okay, I have please don't go everywhere. Come on. Okay, sit. Nice. Okay. Okay. I have some ants and I'm gonna down the hash. They are very citrusy, very bright, very, very, very bright. No, I love these. They're so flavorful. They're so, so good. And
Yeah.
so you said that the ants are your favorite.
Yes, they're great to sprinkle on like vanilla ice cream or in vanilla yogurt or something like that.
Whoa. Oh, I see it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I totally see it.
Yeah, yeah. Yay.
Oh my
So that
God.
one gets a 5-star rating.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
No,
what's
I love these.
next?
Okay, up next, I'm going big. I'm going scorpion.
Whoa. That's a big leap. Go for it.
No, no, no. I'm a beast. You don't know me that well. I'm a beast.
While you're opening that, Amy says that termites taste like carrots.
Whoa.
And yeah, termites are one I haven't actually had before. And then Abigail is asking, did I eat bugs before writing this book or felt inclined to do so afterwards? I ate bugs while I was researching the book. And in one memorable instance, I had written a scene based on reviews of earthworm jerky. And then after I ate the earthworm jerky, which was horrifying, I completely had to rewrite the scene because I realized there's no way they are getting through the scene the way I did it before. Okay. So yeah, so I started eating them while researching the book. But yeah, that's how.
Yeah. All right, well, friends, we have a scorpion.
You can really see it. Yep.
Oh yeah.
That is very scorpion-y.
Oh yeah, that is a stinger. All right, let's see what it is. Honestly, not that much flavor. Very mild. Very nice, but very mild.
Yeah.
But one thing I love about them is that they're crunchy.
I
do love that. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, depending on like who produces them, like the first scorpion I had, I just felt like I was chewing fingernails.
That's not nice.
That was not nice. So I'm glad that one wasn't too bad.
No, yeah. But I am looking at the crickets. I've had these before. I have high hopes because I love them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people have talked about like how, and in the book about how bugs are like the food of the future. Mm-hmm. And the moment I tried cricket tacos, I was like, I'm in. I was like, cut out everything else. I'm fine with it. I really am.
Yeah. Well, and you know, when I do visits with students, you know, I let them know that they're much better for the environment. You know,
they use so much fewer resources, everything.
Yeah, to produce 1 pound of beef for a hamburger versus 1 cricket burger, it's 2,000 times more water. It takes 2 years. It takes 2 acres of land. Whereas for a cricket burger, it's barely any water. You can raise them under your bed or in the closet, and it takes a month. So nutrition-wise, they're equivalent, and you know, we're going to be eating bugs more in the future.
I love them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a few crickets. I love these guys. Oh yeah. Fantastic. They really are a good snack. I bought like just the dry roasted ones like on Amazon, and they're beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
They're so good.
Yeah. They're like eating chips, but healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think the last one, was it a worm of some type?
Yes. Super worms we have right here.
Super worms. Okay. These, I'll be interested. I won't try to prejudice you.
Okay.
We'll see what you think.
What is, no, you couldn't prejudice me if you tried. What is your opinion?
Well, I think worms are good when they come fresh. Like I had worms arrive alive, and then you put them in the freezer and you prepare them. I haven't found a dried worm like that from a vendor yet that I thought actually tasted like anything really. So
okay, got a few worms right there, super worms. Kind of similar to the scorpion, not that much flavor. Very, very mild, very okay, but not really the punchiest, without a doubt, were the ants. That was just like, that's incredible.
Yeah. Well, and if you ever get the chance to try fresh worms at a restaurant, Brooklyn Bugs, there's a great chef in Brooklyn, Joseph Yoon, and it's a whole different ball game. Like once you've had fresh, you're like, oh, it's disappointing.
I believe it.
because they're the ones that have more of the fats, and the fats are what hold the flavor in our food.
Right. Yes, of course.
So it's much better that way. Well, thank you so much for taste testing insects with me for this. Yeah.
I love free food.
And thank you everyone for being here. I wanted to open it up. If any of you have questions, if you could add that to the chat, Lukas or I will be glad to answer.
Indeed, yeah.
I did have one question while others are writing in.
Oh, yes.
I did have one question that had come in from a friend via email who couldn't be here tonight, who asked if you could narrate any book. Is there any book that you would love to narrate?
Ooh, I think I would really love to do The Hobbit, because I have that audiobook, and it's such a chocolatey listen. It's so just it's just like, oh, I just want to be tucked. It's beautiful. There is an audiobook when I was a teenager and I first started getting into audiobooks, one that I tried to get but I couldn't find. There was an abridged version I could find, but I wanted the unabridged, was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I don't know if even maybe I don't even know if I'm the right person for it, but I wish an unabridged version exists. And as far as I know, I haven't checked since a while, but I don't believe a full version exists. And I really wish that existed. Maybe it's okay if I do it, but I more care that that it happens. But yeah, The Hobbit, I would love, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So one question coming in, Rebecca, what was the casting process like for you, and how was it listening to your words and other voices? Actually, Lukas and I were talking about this before we get on, that because I'm not great with audio only, I was a little nervous about the casting process and trying to find the right actor. And so I was sent 3 auditions, and Lukas popped up right away. I did ask him to read just a little bit more with the kids, more of the kids in the scene, and then that just confirmed for me that he was the right person for this book. Lukas, what did you think when you first got the audition pages?
I just thought it was. I need to think, because it was definitely the most gentle book that I had read in a while, because I think I maybe like auditioned for some sort of spy thriller right before. And it's also with like my own reading skills, like I sometimes don't even know what I'm reading. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, what's your preparation?" I do very little preparation. I very often don't really know what I'm reading, but this is something that I could easily clue into. I was like, okay, I get this world exactly. And even for Simon, I was thinking of a friend of mine from middle school called Simon. So it felt like a very natural pool to dive into.
You. I wonder if we all have a Simon, because that is who I have a friend, Simon, who is just like the Simon in the book that I named him after.
I said mine first.
Yes, you did. You did. So another question, how much input was I given during the process? And did I ever have to ask for certain scenes to be revisited, or does someone else call those shots? So I did probably could have had more input if I wanted it. I trusted the work that Lukas was doing and was going to do. And especially when I got the audio back, I didn't ask for anything more except to add a little. we asked to add a little bit from the appendix, especially because we do want to remind children and listeners here to not just eat any bugs that you find in the yard or off the street or anything like that. We definitely only want to eat insects that are raised for human consumption, for people to eat. And also to be careful about if you have a shellfish allergy, insects might be complicated for you. So So really, we just asked for more. The reading was so good. We just asked Lucas to do more.
Yeah.
um, did you, Lucas? While I'm thinking about it, did you have a scene that was particularly fun for you to read?
The final wrestling match was my favorite because for a lot of the book, it was Will was really struggling, and he was noticing Aloy be a natural talent at wrestling, and it was so nice to see him sort of have like a beautiful mind moment where he was like, "Oh, I'm really just like finally just like in my body, and I understand everything." And it was so nice to see that happen, and nice to see someone not just learn but apply what he's learned. It was so satisfying. It was such a satisfying moment.
Thank you. I worked really hard on those wrestling teams, not having been a wrestler. And I actually went to try the school that's in the book in Minnesota and hung out with the wrestling team. I went with them to a tournament. I went to a practice and I interviewed several of the boys to try to make sure to get it right. So I'm really
It
glad
shows.
in the end that worked for you as well. Thank you. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I was really, really looking forward to one, meeting you in person, but also getting to learn more about the process of being a narrator and working on books like this. Thank you so much, and thank
No,
you
my
everyone for
pleasure.
being here. And yeah, I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you very, very much. It was a pleasure to narrate your book. It was delightful. You were very easy to work with. Um, to everyone watching and listening, I wish you well, and I would love you to follow me and perhaps come see my stand-up comedy. You can find me at Lucas T. Arnold on all social media, and I wish you well. I wish you safety. I wish you happy snacking.
Thank you. Have a good night.